Tyler Herro carried Miami in a gutsy blowout win over the Bulls to keep their playoff hopes alive. Can the Heat keep it going versus Atlanta on Friday? We'll answer that and more on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. For daily content on the Heat, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast app. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Heat daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On Heat newsletter. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Have a great show for you today. We've got credit cookies we're gonna hand out. We have another game to look forward to this season because the Heat beat the Bulls, blowing them out in the 9-10 game. They're going to move on and play the Hawks on Friday, and if they win that, they're going to be in the playoffs to face the Cavs in the first round. We're going to get to all of that in a second, but we have to start with this game, and we have to start, I think at least, David, with Tyler Herro. 38 points on 13 of 19 shooting. Just a mature, controlled offensive game. He was the best player on the floor, and it wasn't even close. No need for a three-pointer or a two-pointer decision at the end of the game because they didn't need it because the Heat blew the Bulls out. He was just awesome in this one.
He was fantastic. It was the culmination of everything that we've seen from Herro all season long, the growth, the maturity. And I like that Richard Jefferson on the ESPN broadcast was talking about a lot of the same points that we brought up, the maturity in his game, the way he's more poised, not rushing anything, playing at his pace, drawing fouls, his shot selection. There were a couple shots there that might have been more like of a heat check later in the second half, but in the first half, he goes 8 of 8. He was sensational to start the game, and he just looked like he was the best player on the court, and pretty easily so. Like there was nobody else that was really at the same level as he was in terms of his overall impact, the way his shooting was just such a difference maker, and he was peppering some really, really, really great plays along with it too. So his evolution as a scorer, as a playmaker, as a much more complete player was totally evident in tonight's win.
19 field goal attempts, 7 of them were three-pointers. He got to the line for 10 free throws. That is amazing. A three-level score. The floater was just top-notch floater. He's got the best floater in the NBA. Kirk Goldsberry wrote about this and pointed it out on a piece in the Ringer this week, and I thought it was very astute. And he's got the stats to back it up like Goldsberry always does. And I was like, wow, I knew the floater was good. I didn't realize it was that good. And they just went to it time after time. Again, Tyler Herro, first two buckets in this one, both just stuff right at the rim. He was getting it on the move. He was creating for himself. He was playing off the ball and finding space. When he was on the ball, it was fine. The Bulls resorted to trapping him after he went 8 for 8 in the first half. They started trapping him in the second half. Threw him out of rhythm a little bit, then he figured it out. Yeah. No problem. And that's just what great offensive players do, right? You show them a different look, and they say, okay, they digest it, they download it, they react to it, and then they counter it, and then they beat it. And that's what Tyler Herro did in this one. It's so well said, David, because we've been talking about this guy's improvement all year long. And to see him do this in the biggest spot of the Heat season and just say, I don't want the drama. I'm not here for it. I don't want a 3-versus-2 decision at the end of this one. We're just going to blow this team out. We're going to blow the doors off of this team. And we're not even going to have to worry about that stuff. I just thought it was so awesome. I thought it was awesome for him. And I'm glad he was able to do this on a national stage where people can kind of pay attention a little bit to the development he's made, because this is a different Tyler Herro than I think a guy that a lot of people have seen recently. And it kind of erases the stink of the 3-versus-2 decision. I mean, everybody saw them talking about it on ESPN. It's like the only time that he gets talked about this season is when he makes a bad decision, kind of ignoring everything else he did, even during an all-star season. I'm glad he had this to kind of answer that with.
I think it answers a lot of things. I think it silences a lot of the critics, not just locally, but also around the country or NBA fans in general. I think anybody who saw his all-star selection as maybe being undeserving or that he was somewhat overrated, you see his performance tonight and you go, you know what? this guy might actually just be a really, really good player and certainly deserving of the All-Star nod. And we talked about him being a fringe All-NBA type candidate. And these kinds of performances certainly help in that regard. Like, I mean, maybe voting's over at this point, but either way, like, he just proves something. Like, we talked about the game having to mean something to him and to Bam specifically. And at the very least, we'll talk about Bam in the second segment. But in terms of what Tyler was able to do tonight, he certainly looked like he was ready for the responsibility of saying, no, this is my team now. I can lead this team the best way I know how, by being a bucket getter. He's been that since his rookie days. He continues to be that, and he's just gotten better and better of that over the course of his career. And this was just the best representation of all that growth and everything that he's done over the course of this season and leading up to it. It's been a fantastic year for him, and to put this on top of all that, what a hell of a performance. Like, I'm very proud of Tyler and seeing him continue to grow and put up these big games in these kind of situations. This goes such a long way towards helping him establish himself as one of the stars of the NBA.
It's cool to see a guy homegrown develop in this way. I don't really remember the last time. I mean, when was the last time we've ever seen a Miami Heat scorer drafted by the Heat develop into an all-star offensive player?
Dwayne, right? That's it.
And that barely counts because Dwayne was just awesome right away. Like, we didn't really see the slow development. We're just like, oh my God, this guy's incredible.
My second season, he was already getting Jordan-esque comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Jordan? Okay, this is pretty cool. Where this is real steady growth from Tyler Herro. It's awesome. My other takeaway from this one is just how dialed in the Heat were.
Yeah.
They are so well coached. They executed. We knew exactly what they wanted to do in this game, right? We kept talking about, is this team going to want to play slow? They're going to try to slow the tempo down. Are they going to try to match Chicago in pace? They did neither. It turned out that all of that stuff is just stupid sports radio talk, and that's not actually how basketball works. And they just went out and executed the stuff that they wanted to execute. And whatever the pace that comes from that is the pace. But part of playing really good offensive basketball is just getting into your stuff with urgency. And that tends to just kind of move a little bit faster. And that's what the Heat did in this one. So I thought it was kind of like it was a good tempo. It was definitely up tempo, but it wasn't like breakneck pace the way that Chicago wants to play, where it kind of feels a little chaotic. It was just a good tempo, right? It was just a good rhythmic beat to the offense.
I felt like it was a little up tempo. Like it felt that way. And I know they missed some shots. There was obvious unfortunate struggles in the third quarter where they blew, a 25-point lead up to that point. And you look, I think that they probably could have been even better. Like, offensively, there were a lot of easy shots at the rims that they missed, some wide open threes. And you have to credit Chicago's defense for tightening a little bit in the second half. It was pretty porous in the first half. But I felt like they were trying at the very least to play at a faster pace, perhaps than usual. And maybe, to your point, it was just a result of, well, we're creating our identity. We're establishing who we are first. And that's making great plays defensively and that igniting our offense, as it has for most of the past few seasons. With Jimmy Butler, without Jimmy Butler, defense has led to offense for this team for a number of years. And that was certainly evident, especially in the first half, when they were so good at shutting down Chicago. And that led to some easy opportunities for them to score. And they scored very easily at that point in time. When it struggled a little bit, it just didn't look quite as fluid, quite as smooth. But eventually they figured it out. They got some timely buckets from a couple of key players. And that was just enough for them to say, you know what, we're not going to make this a close game. You know, when it's down to 13, I think at one point,
yeah,
Chicago
the lead never got
to
less than 10. You know, like we knew Chicago was going to have a counterpunch. Their season was on the line. You know, like they weren't going to just get blown out by 20. What?
It didn't last very long, though.
No, but we knew it was going to happen, right? Like, they were going to have a counterpunch. And then we've talked about this. The Heat, over the last 15, 16 games or so, the difference between that team and the team that lost 10 straight games was that when they lost 10 straight games, when the other team punched back, the Heat just fell over. Yeah. And they have been able to withstand those counterpunches a lot better. And I just go back to how dialed in and how prepared they were for this game. This is why the Heat are dangerous in these situations. Jimmy Butler or no Jimmy Butler, it's still Erik Spoelstra. It's still Heat culture. It doesn't necessarily have to have a TM sign or a copyright, but it is what they stand for. It's Bam. It's Tyler Herro. There's still a lot of guys on this team that have been in NBA Finals, have played in big games, have done long playoff runs. And it's still Erik Spoelstra, man, at the end of the day. And this team was just dialed in, well coached. They executed exactly what they wanted to do. And I'll say it again. This is why the Heat are dangerous in these type of situations.
Well, we talked all week long previewing this matchup about the Chicago's pace and the way they ignite their offense and their explosive offense. They can get it going pretty quickly. And the head of that particular snake, Josh Giddey, and that was my biggest takeaway, is that I think they did a phenomenal job of making things very difficult for Giddey. He is a very good player, but they made him look pedestrian out there. And I think a big part of that was Bam Adebayo picking him up defensively and doing a really, really good job of just providing a big body, making sure that he couldn't get those easier looks. He couldn't drive past them. We know what a great defender Bam is, and the stats prove it. I think even today they confirmed, I can't recall exactly where I saw the stat, in terms of possession to possession status, like he is third best at limiting field goal opportunity or field goal percentages for opposing players, regardless of position. And we know where it is. Even last week, we saw that stat where Bam was, at the very top in terms of bigs who guard on the perimeter. He is one of one in that sense. And you could really see that tonight. Like Giddey, a ball handler, quick enough to be able to get past other perimeter defenders. Not Bam Adebayo. Bam just did such a good job of locking him up and making sure that there was no way out for Giddey to make a play for himself or for others. And that's really what kind of stifled their offense in the first half. They got away from that a little bit in the second half, and Giddey was able to find a couple easy looks for some other players to knock down. But again, never really got particularly close. It was never really out of control. Miami just seemed to have a throttle hold on exactly what they wanted to do, and just to quash exactly what Chicago was hoping to do. They never let them get too comfortable, and they just made it look like an easy win for Chicago. Booze raining down the United Stater.
Yes.
Right? That's a whole other story. But to see your team get blown out in a must-win game, we talked about Miami having to have a sense of urgency. Certainly they showed that. Chicago did not. They did not have that kind of intensity or urgency of any kind. And now they go into another offseason. But go listen to Locked On Bulls if you want that perspective. Miami was just dynamic tonight.
And that was the biggest difference in this game. It was just the Heat looked prepared to play a game for their season. Yes. And it felt like the Bulls were just informed that they had to play this basketball game this afternoon. Like they had nothing.
They might have gone prepared playing at home. You never know. Like maybe they was just
true.
Like, we're the home team. We've beaten them 3 times this regular season.
Yeah.
None of that mattered. This was a completely different version of this team. A lot of that with just a great defensive intensity, but
it's
also
a different
the
context.
Offensively.
These are the playoffs, man. When it's winter, like these are it's sort of the playoffs. I don't really know. It's the play-in, whatever it is. It's different. It's game 7. Credit Cookies is next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Skims. When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, well, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family. I just had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it certainly lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear. Probably you have too, whether it's fit or comfort or just finding the right style for you. Skims has changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with a perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried the Skims boxer brief, and let me tell you, I'm hooked. These are perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you. They never lose their shape, and they stay in place all day. Whether you're working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear that you'll ever own. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're going commando, not wearing anything at all. So shop Skims Ben at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Last-minute deals, listen, if you're looking for a last-minute deal, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They're all in pricing, means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you get. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The playoff race is heating up as the season winds down. Can the Heat secure a playoff spot? Stay in the know with Locked On Heat and the Locked On Heat podcast newsletter. Get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes by subscribing. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your Sports McCave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. Sign up between April 7th and April 30th to be entered. Our Heat newsletter delivers real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored for you. Subscribe now for free to the Locked On Heat newsletter and stay ahead as the season unfolds. Subscribe today. Click the link in the description to enter lockedondaily.com. Well, David, it's a Miami Heat win in the play-in tournament, which means it's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat.
Gotta say, giving out play-in cookies. It's been a while since we've done it, but it always feels good. And one special cookie going out today. It's actually a cookie cake to celebrate your birthday. Miami winning on your birthday. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Appreciate it. I had a cheesecake.
Oh,
at halftime.
Keep with the theme at all. I mean, that's fine, I guess, but
we did order cookies this week.
There you go.
From a place that will go unnamed unless they want to sponsor the podcast. But it's a local Miami place. No, we ordered from Night Owl Cookies. You and I think have talked about that place. It's a good spot.
Very, very good place. And you know what? We are definitely open to sponsorship opportunities.
That's right.
Listen, I mean, we talked about Tyler Herro. What else can we say about his performance tonight? So we'll start there. 5 credit cookies going to Tyler. A 38-point performance, well-deserved, every one of those cookies. And just the poise, everything that we talked about in the first segment, and the stakes of tonight's performance, I think just go a really long way to showing that Tyler is one of the better players in the NBA. I am excited to see what the offseason is all about for Tyler in terms of how he's viewed around the league, because I think performances like tonight and the growth of the season show that he's certainly developing and growing, and that he's no longer a fluke, or that maybe he was lucky in terms of his all-star selection or anything like that. Like, we're seeing a complete player. We're seeing him grow before our very eyes. And to have that kind of performance, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 3 of 7 from three-point range, 13 of 19 overall, to go with 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Breakaway dunk. That was fantastic. What a play that was, too. So, I mean, just a great overall night for Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, one play-in game in the 9-10 matchup I don't think is going to be enough to change the conversation around Tyler Herro. But if you think about who's coming up next, potentially, Trae Young, obviously, on Friday.
Yep.
And then in the first round, he might be going head-to-head with Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I mean, there are tough matchups potentially coming up for Tyler Herro. If the Heat win on Friday and Tyler Herro plays well, like, the Heat probably won't win that series. We'll talk about that if we get there. But regardless, if he plays well against Cleveland and in that matchup, that's the sort of thing that people can be like, wow, the Heat traded Jimmy Butler. It was sort of the season from hell from them, and Tyler Herro still did that during an all-star season. That could get people talking about him in a different way this offseason. But who's next?
I've got 2 credit cookies going to Andrew Wiggins, who I think stepped up big. We talked about him being a potential X factor, and that certainly was the case. 20 points on 8 of 20 shooting, including 4 of 9 from three-point range. He went with 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He seemed like he was all over the place. Talk about an X factor. Like, he was just dynamic in terms of his defense, and then just hitting the occasional shot as well, bolstering Miami's offense. Tyler led the charge. But to get a performance like that from Wiggins, that was certainly a difference from what we saw in their last matchup against the Bulls, when he looked kind of out of sorts and he was just coming back from injuries. This was the type of Wiggins performance that you go, oh yeah, you know what? He is a former All-Star. He is the kind of guy who it looked like, honestly, maybe this seems a little rash to say this and you're kind of in the moment here, but between him, Tyler, and Bam, it looked like a big 3 out there. They looked like a really good core of 3 players that could lead you to victory. And
more so than LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh?
I would have put him at that same level.
Did you see the Rich Paul quote?
Below that. Yeah, a notch below the 3 Hall of Fame players and maybe the best player of all time.
Detractors could say that Wiggins scored 20 points on 20 shots. That's what the detractors would say. My counter would be, I'm so happy he took 20 shots.
Yeah.
They need Andrew Wiggins to be aggressive. They need him to be aggressive. And he missed a couple of bunnies at the rim and whatever in this game, but I love that he was aggressive. I love that he went 4 for 9 from three-point range. He's got to be taking those threes. He's not as good as Jimmy Butler, but he's a better floor spacer than Jimmy Butler, and that's an important part of Miami's offense now. So I agree with you. I just loved his aggression overall, and I thought his defense was really good in this game too. But let's put a pin in Wiggins because I have one other thing that I want to bring up with him a little bit later, but let's continue with some of these credit cookies.
I've got 2 credit cookies going to Davion Mitchell off
yeah.
the bench, 5 of 5 from the floor, 3 of 4 from the line, 2 of 2 from three-point range, 9 assists. He was just really, really great as a playmaker. We talked about him being possibly inserted into the starting lineup. Spo said, nah, I'm just going to roll out with what I feel comfortable. He kept Alec Burks in there, who struggled a little bit, but Mitchell got plenty of playing time. 33 minutes on the night, and he was dynamic. He just looked great. His defense on Cody White, on Josh Giddey, wherever he was making an impact. He was flying all over the place. Talk about a gamer. Like, what a pickup for Miami. We've had him on the show. We talked to him. We've made a case for him being an all-NBA defensive player, but he's just really rose to the challenge tonight. And I know he's entering restricted free agency, and he's looking for a payday. Hopefully it comes from Miami. But at the same time, just for a guy like that to rise up to the challenge, a guy who was a lottery pick and really hasn't found his place in the NBA, was kind of a cast off. He never really had a place in Sacramento playing behind De'Aaron Fox, and then he goes to Toronto. He was okay there, but again, Toronto wasn't really a team that was really showcasing him or anything like that. He's been huge for Miami. Every Heat fan loves his defensive intensity, and to see him come up with that kind of performance in a play-in game, that was huge. I think it was a fantastic performance from him. I wish I could give him more credit cookies, but we can't.
Do you have anything for Kyle Anderson?
A shout out, because I still think Bam was a factor. I think Bam gets the last credit cookie.
All right,
Bam gets the last credit cookie. And,
but the Kyle Anderson shout out, Davion Mitchell, and then the Andrew Wiggins thing here. That's the Jimmy Butler package. And that was one of my other big takeaways in this game. It was really important that those 3 guys in particular played well in this game with the season on the line and play well going forward. This is, you didn't necessarily want to trade Jimmy Butler. I understand that, but you had to, and this is what you got back. And this is sort of, they kind of embody whatever it is that's post Jimmy Butler in some way. And the fact that all 3 of them stepped up and just set the tone for this team defensively. You mentioned Davion Mitchell's defense on Cody White. That possession he had at the end, where Tyler Herro gets matched up on Kobe White at the end, Davion Mitchell runs up, kicks him out of the matchup, and says, "I got this, bro. Don't worry about it." And then just locks him up on the sideline. That was awesome. Awesome stuff. And no, he did not foul him. That was awesome stuff. Kyle Anderson is so big and stout defensively in the middle of the paint. He had a down swipe on Buzelis. He bodied up Vucevic a couple of times. It kind of felt like Chicago ended up scrambling with their bench unit and what they wanted to do with their bigs. Patrick Williams really couldn't play in this game. They go to Jalen Smith a little bit later in the second half. And I felt like that wasn't all Kyle Anderson, but it was definitely some of Kyle Anderson. And then Andrew Wiggins defensively, again, was really great. And that was sort of the point that I wanted to bring up too, is all 3 of those guys defensively really brought it. And then Bam Adebayo, to your point, is always going to bring it.
I'm glad that you wanted to talk about Anderson, because I in my notes I wrote in the first half particularly Kyle Anderson's defense. Like, it was such a factor. His mobility, which again, for a guy nicknamed Slow-Mo, you wouldn't think of, but he was really like a high basketball IQ in terms of where he had to be, what adjustments he had to make, whether he was guarding a big down low or picking up a wing player. He was really, really good at just keeping in front of them and making things difficult, challenging them, not allowing them to get to the rim and have an easy look there. I thought he was great. As a playmaker, he was sensational. He finished with 5 assists too. It's a really solid night. To look at a guy that had 0 points, didn't even take a single field goal, and still wound up with a plus 15, I think that speaks to what kind of a high-level role player he can be. And I'm glad to see him be a part of Spo's Titan rotation. Like, no need to give Jaime Jaquez minutes as he's continuing to struggle. Terry Rozier has fallen off the face of the earth. And you know what? Thank goodness. It's been about time. I hate to say it, but he just hasn't been good for Miami. But to be able to get the kind of productive minutes from Kyle Anderson that you can as a playmaker and as an occasional scorer, although he wasn't necessarily a scorer tonight, is fantastic. He's just been really productive for Miami.
Was this the first time the new guys wore the clean white jerseys that weren't the white Vice jerseys?
I don't think so. I don't know.
That might be the case. Just something I was thinking about just now. All right, that's it for Credit Cookies. Coming up, we're going to look ahead to Friday night's game in Atlanta and what the Heat have to do to win and make the playoffs.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and even Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services, whether it's Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. And it's affordable and portable. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console, well, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. It makes it so easy. It's such a great experience. And again, if you don't really play all that often, well, this is a great opportunity for you to start playing Xbox. So head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. That's Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st or 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. We will be back Friday morning with a crossover edition previewing Heat versus the Hawks with Brad Rowland, the host of Locked On Hawks. But we are going to touch on it a little bit here with just some real quick initial thoughts. I'm thinking of three things that the Heat have to do to win against the Hawks in Atlanta on Friday night. Number one, don't lose the three-point battle. They won the three-point battle when these teams met a couple of weeks ago. Remember, we got on the post-game show, and I started talking about how Tyler Herro is in a different conversation than Trae Young because he's just better than him. That was fun. Well, that's the other thing. Tyler Herro versus Trae Young. In that game, Tyler Herro outplayed Trae Young, and the Heat didn't lose the three-point shooting battle to Atlanta. So all of that was basically played even, and that helps Miami, obviously. But here's the thing that I'm really kind of looking at. I don't know about you, but the Hawks kind of play a little bit similar to Chicago.
Yeah.
They have better wing defenders, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Rizishea. Mo Gay has been really good for them defensively at that power forward spot. They've just got guys at those positions. But I think it's going to be the same game plan as it was tonight in Chicago, because the Hawks also want to push the pace. They want to push the tempo. And if the Heat play with the kind of urgency they had in this one, that's going to serve them well against an Atlanta Hawks team that, frankly, unraveled against Orlando in their playing game. And if they've got Atlanta kind of in this mindset and the Heat are handling things this professionally and with this level of urgency, then I really like Miami's chances in Atlanta on Friday.
I mean, certainly. I think that's huge. I feel confident, and I don't want to feel too confident. I'm not dismissing Atlanta by any stretch, but at the same time, if Miami goes into Friday's matchup with that same level of preparation and focus and urgency that they did tonight, and that was evident in the first half in particular, I think they'll be fine. Now, the flip side of that is that maybe Atlanta took their foot off the gas a little bit after getting blown out by Orlando early on and then cutting that lead down and coming all the way back and then just unraveling again. Maybe because they felt, well, you know what, we don't necessarily have to win this one. We're on the road, whereas now we'll be at home against whichever opponent they'll have to face, whether it's Chicago or Miami. So maybe you kind of take their foot off the gas. We saw it from Miami too. Like, you didn't have to win the first play-in game. Why? Because you've got that second play-in game as an opportunity to try and advance. Maybe they come back with a little sense of urgency. I was surprised at how completely Trae Young in particular,
Yeah.
like he was just jawing at refs. He got tossed from the game against Orlando, and he just looked like he fell apart. I know he was complaining and trying to get a call his way.
He was complaining
That
about
didn't work
calls he
out.
got.
Listen.
It,
I mean, I get it. It was not
you
his
get
best
it?
game.
I don't
I
get
mean,
it.
oh, why? That's a lot of what superstars do nowadays. He just felt like he was not able to handle Orlando's physical defense. And so I think if Miami approaches the same game the way with the same kind of defensive intensity that they showed tonight, they should be able to make things difficult for Young and kind of force them into bad shots. And I don't know who else on that side is going to beat them. I mean, their roster's kind of, they're going through some injuries. They've got Jalen Johnson. He hasn't played. I mean,
Karis LeVert is Karis LeVert's pretty dangerous. He could blow up off the bench a little bit.
Though? Who picks up?
So I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can't put Bam on him.
Wiggins.
You don't want Okongwu diving to the rim on easy lobs.
You put Wiggins on Trae because you're really not worried, because they had Wiggins on Cody White tonight, because you worry about Cody White. He had a terrible game for Chicago, but you worry about him on a game-to-game. I think you put Wiggins on Trae Young, and then you can hide Burks on Rizachet and Herro on Daniels. Herro and Daniels are going to be matched up anyway on the cross match, because Daniels is going to get the Herro assignment, so you might as well just accept it if you're Miami and just say, all right, you guys are going to guard each other the entire game. I think Mo Gay probably tries guarding Bam.
Where?
And then you've got a Okongwu on Ware potentially to see if Okongwu can maybe bully Ware a little bit. I think that's what Atlanta does. If you're Miami, maybe you try to flip those matchups a little bit. But no, you've got Wiggins on Trae Young, and then you've got Davion Mitchell coming off the bench. And the point you brought up about Orlando really threw Trae Young with their physicality. I mean, every game when you're done with the Magic ends with some kind of bruises in some kind of places. And I think if you're the Heat, you also want to bring that. And if you're Davion Mitchell, that's my job. Hey, I just saw Trae Young throw him rage quit halfway through the fourth quarter in a play-in game because he got that frustrated with the physicality of this game. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm doing the same exact thing. And if I'm Bam, you want to pull me into a switch with Okongwu or whoever? All right, get ready. Like, I'm going to be physical with you, And I think the Heat are going to have to pull out that physicality early on and kind of set the tone and be like, all right, what are you going to call a foul on? And are you going to call a foul on all of this? Because we're just getting started here. I think if I'm Erik Spoelstra, that's what I'm telling you. Just foul this guy. Just start fouling him, like in the first 5 minutes, and see what the refs are going to call and try to set the tone of the game that way. And then you can kind of get in his head a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's key. Mitchell being able to pick him up and make things difficult and challenge him, make him uncomfortable. We know he's going to throw his head back. He's going to flop a little bit. He's going to try to get those calls. You can't let it get to you. And I think Davion is poised enough. I've seen that this season from him, that I think he won't let it eat at him. And he still, even when he does get foul calls against him, he still kind of rises to that challenge and he'll embrace it. But I think you've got enough defenders that, like, you could throw Haywood at Trae Young, and I think he could do a pretty solid job on him as well. You got Wiggins out there. So you've got three different guys that you can probably challenge him with. And you know what? Tonight's X Factor in Kyle Anderson. I'd like to see what kind of a game he has coming off the bench from Miami too, as a guy who can kind of make plays on offense and still be a solid defender at multiple positions too off the bench.
We could see Pelle Larsson too. He was available in this one. Didn't play, but he was available.
Time,
yeah.
Would you put him in there? I mean, you wouldn't start him at this point, right? I think
he wouldn't be in my plan A, but he might be in my plan B in case we pick up some foul trouble or something like that. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I could see it.
We'll see what happens. The Heat season goes on. Make sure you're tuned in to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.